As the Russia-Ukraine conflict evolves, President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China has cautioned President Putin, emphasizing that impulsive actions could result in dire consequences. Xi has firmly stated that Russia must refrain from using nuclear weapons under any circumstances. Currently, China appears to be taking on the role of mediator in Sino-Russian relations, a challenge that grows more complex as the conflict intensifies and Russia seeks military success. Beijing is concerned about the potential for the conflict to escalate into a nuclear situation. This analysis explores why China is urging Russia to reconsider its aggressive strategies, the current dynamics of their bilateral relations, and the potential risks of a nuclear confrontation if these warnings are disregarded. Ukraine's recent operations in Kursk have taken Putin by surprise, prompting him to assert his military capabilities as Western support for Ukraine strengthens. Amid heightened tensions in discussions involving the UK, the US, and Ukraine, Putin has made public statements indicating his willingness to consider nuclear options. China's position on nuclear weapons has been unequivocal from the outset, as it finds unacceptable the prospect of destruction resulting from a nuclear conflict. Mao Ning, a spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, reiterated this perspective at a recent press conference, emphasizing that the use of nuclear weapons must be avoided at all costs. In early September, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov mentioned that Russia is contemplating adjustments to its nuclear doctrine in response to escalating tensions with Western adversaries. He indicated that the policy is under refinement, with certain aspects being re-evaluated based on recent developments, including an increase in Western military assistance to Ukraine. Adding to these concerns, Planet Labs reported that 2 US scientists detected construction activities around the Vaga-20 nuclear warhead storage facility, approximately 300 miles north of Moscow. Satellite imagery also indicated a potential site for nuclear missile launch capabilities. Russian nuclear expert Pavel Podvig noted that these findings suggest closer proximity to operational readiness, but he also advised caution in drawing definitive conclusions. Further corroborating these developments, images shared by journalist Mark Krutov displayed noticeable changes at the construction site from 2022 to 2023. In this context, China has reiterated its desire for Moscow to avoid escalating the conflict to a nuclear level, driven by apprehensions regarding the implications of Russia's growing military vulnerabilities. Pavel Podvig advocated for all parties involved to exercise restraint and pursue diplomatic dialogue. In late 2022, during German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's visit, President Xi Jinping directly communicated this concern to Putin, urging him to support peace negotiations between the conflicting nations. Xinhua reported that Xi emphasized global backing for the non-use of nuclear weapons, underlining the need to avert a nuclear crisis in Europe and Asia. During a meeting with US President Biden at the 2022 G20 summit, Xi Jinping availed himself of the opportunity to articulate Beijing's stance to the White House. This marked the first instance of Xi publicly addressing concerns regarding Putin, shedding light on his priorities. President Biden affirmed this perspective, concurring that the use of nuclear weapons in the Russia-Ukraine conflict is unacceptable, with both leaders echoing the sentiment that nuclear war would herald catastrophic destruction worldwide. In 2023, Xi Jinping delivered a message from the White House to the Kremlin during a state visit to Moscow. Illustrating Beijing's growing concerns regarding Russia's military actions, Xi expressed confidence that he positively influenced efforts to ease tensions in the Russia-Ukraine war. A year later, on May 16, 2024, the two countries issued a joint statement announcing the deepening of their comprehensive strategic partnership on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations. The two leaders characterized their meeting as candid and friendly, addressing various topics, including the situation in Ukraine. However, Russia's recent shift in nuclear policy has undermined these efforts. This change contradicts Moscow's stance from January 2022, when China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, recognized nuclear powers, issued a joint statement committing to preventing nuclear war. The statement emphasized that no nation could emerge victorious from a nuclear conflict due to its catastrophic consequences, and asserted that nuclear weapons should serve solely defensive purposes to deter aggression and prevent war. The signatories also underscored the importance of preventing nuclear proliferation and pledged to engage in constructive dialogue based on mutual respect for security concerns. Traditionally, Russia has maintained that nuclear weapons can be utilized in response to a nuclear attack or any existential threat to the state. As Ukraine intensifies its military efforts, President Putin finds justification for escalating the conflict. Russia's policy permits the deployment of nuclear weapons if the state's existence is jeopardized, implying that significant escalation by Ukraine could result in nuclear consequences. Putin has strategically defined the annexed regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson as part of Russian territory, rendering Ukrainian attempts to reclaim these areas a threat to Russia's territorial integrity. Following Ukrainian drone attacks in Crimea and the Black Sea, Russia perceives a justification it has long sought. Throughout 2024, Putin has consistently threatened to employ nuclear force, raising concerns that these threats may soon materialize. Speculation has persisted regarding whether these threats are merely rhetorical. Ukraine's successful incursion into Kursk without repercussions supports these speculations. Nonetheless, in his annual State of the Nation address, Putin asserted that should Western nations deploy troops into Ukraine, he would not hesitate to deploy nuclear weapons. This escalation came after controversial remarks from French President Emmanuel Macron, who suggested potential direct intervention by NATO allies in Ukraine. In March, Putin reiterated in an interview that Russia possesses all necessary strategic preparations for such an intervention, emphasizing its status as the nation with the largest nuclear stockpile. Most recently, in September, in an interview prior to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's meeting with President Biden regarding the lifting of restrictions on Ukraine, Putin warned that direct NATO intervention would signify a full-scale conflict with Moscow. If this situation arises, and given the evolving nature of the conflict, Russia will implement appropriate measures to address the emerging threats. Ukraine's counteroffensive in Kursk has significantly undermined President Putin's image, both domestically and internationally, portraying him as a decisive leader and diminishing the credibility of his red line rhetoric. In light of Putin's character and Ukraine's recent achievements, China's stern warning appears warranted. The dynamics between Moscow and Beijing are more strained than ever, with ambiguity surrounding the duration of this relationship. Although Xi Jinping has claimed that Russia-China relations know no limits, the current landscape reveals evident boundaries between the two nations. Xi Nyong, an international relations professor at Renmin University in Beijing, emphasized that Russia has never sought, nor will it seek, China's approval for nuclear weapon deployment. Should Russia utilize nuclear weapons against Ukraine, it is likely that China would further distance itself from Moscow. The ongoing conflict has placed Beijing in a precarious position as it considers how its alignment with Russia impacts its global reputation. To date, China has refrained from fully endorsing or condemning Putin's actions, attempting to maintain a balanced narrative by attributing blame for Russian aggression to NATO expansion. China clearly values its diplomatic relationship with Russia and the associated benefits, but aims to uphold a neutral position as a peacekeeping entity. This delicate balancing act may strain bilateral relations, especially as China encounters criticism for sustaining a comprehensive strategic partnership with Moscow following its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Beyond its ties to Russia, China also engages with the United States, Japan, and various European Union nations. However, maintaining economic relations with an authoritarian regime like Russia poses substantial risks to these partnerships. In the event of an escalation to nuclear conflict, China may jeopardize its economic allies entirely. NATO member states have identified China as a facilitator for Russia, given its unlimited partnership with that nation. Recently, US and European leaders have accused China of supporting Russia's defense industry through the provision of dual-use goods. Beijing has denied these allegations, asserting that its activities are restricted to supplying civilian goods to Russia. In response to statements from the European Union, China has affirmed that it bears no responsibility for the crisis in Ukraine, reiterating its commitment to promoting peaceful negotiations and achieving political solutions through dialogue. These allegations, combined with potential secondary sanctions from the United States, should China continue its cooperation with Russian companies, are likely to escalate tensions in international relations. President Xi Jinping is acutely aware of the gravity of the situation, particularly if he fails to deter President Putin from initiating a nuclear conflict, which has resulted in his repeated calls for Moscow to exercise restraint. For those interested in Russia's nuclear capabilities, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute reported that as of January this year, Russia possesses the largest nuclear arsenal globally, with 4,380 warheads in deployment or storage. In comparison, the United States, China, France, and the United Kingdom have 3,708, 410, 290, and 225 warheads respectively. Russia's nuclear arsenal includes two primary types: tactical and strategic. Tactical nuclear weapons, characterized by smaller warheads and delivery systems, are designed for limited battlefield use, targeting specific enemy forces while minimizing radioactive fallout. These warheads range in yield from 1 kiloton to 100 kilotons. Conversely, Russia's strategic nuclear weapons, with yields potentially reaching 1,000 kilotons, pose the most significant threat and concern. US intelligence estimates that Russia possesses approximately 2,000 tactical nuclear warheads, which can be launched from aircraft or warships and are compatible with various missile systems. Additionally, Russia has two systems capable of conducting short-range missile attacks. The Kalibr missile, a land attack cruise missile, boasts an estimated range of 1,553 miles. A Russian official indicated that Russia intends to equip all nuclear and non-nuclear submarines, corvettes, warships, and larger surface vessels with Kalibr missile capabilities. This enhancement will significantly bolster the offensive power of smaller forces, such as corvettes. The Kalibr missile enables the Russian Navy to target fixed land-based facilities at considerable distances using conventional warheads. Increased deployment of the Kalibr missile considerably enhances Russia's naval power, augmenting its ability to deter, threaten, or destroy enemy targets. These capabilities are likely to be integrated into large Soviet-era ships and submarines undergoing upgrades or modernization. The second system is the Iskander-M SS-26 Stone, a mobile land-based missile launcher representing a short-range hypersonic ballistic missile system which has been utilized in various combat scenarios, including the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Furthermore, the Burevestnik nuclear weapon, designated SSC-X9 Skyfall by NATO due to its high lethality, was tested in 2023. President Putin has emphasized the nearing completion of this advanced strategic weapon, highlighting its virtually unlimited range, with reports suggesting it could reach the United States, approximately 15,000 miles, and possesses the capability to evade US missile defense systems. Given this formidable arsenal, it is evident that China is striving to deter Russia from the use of nuclear weapons. Although President Putin may be hesitant to deploy long-range missiles, Russia could consider the use of smaller tactical nuclear warheads for specific target attacks. According to Patricia Lewis, head of the International Security Program at Chatham House, Russia may not perceive the deployment of tactical nuclear weapons as a significant escalation in the conflict. Another potential driver of Russia's military buildup stems from an incident in May 2023, when a drone flew over the Kremlin before being intercepted. The origins of the initial attack remain ambiguous, with both Ukraine and the United States denying involvement. Kiev has also asserted it received no access to long-range drones. Despite these denials, drone strikes have persisted, causing embarrassment for the Kremlin. Following an investigation, Russian authorities concluded that the drone originated from Ukraine, corroborated by videos indicating an expansion of Ukraine's domestic drone fleet for more frequent attacks within Russian territory. Funding for Ukraine's drone development is primarily led by 23-year-old influencer Ihor Lenov, who alleges that the Ukrainian military requested his assistance in crowdfunding the initiative through his 1 million Telegram followers. Lenov has reportedly raised approximately $500,000 to create what he refers to as a kamikaze drone. Among the drones highlighted by the Times are the Boba, the UJ-22, and an unnamed model, all of which have been deployed in attacks on Moscow. These operations intensified between May and July 2023, with the capability to carry explosives weighing up to 3 kilograms across distances of 621 miles. Although President Putin did not issue an immediate response to these incidents, Ukraine may perceive that it has staved off retaliation. However, as Ukraine intensifies its offensive activities, President Putin is poised to demonstrate the seriousness of his threats. Additionally, China, Russia's closest ally, acknowledges the potential risks associated with such a conflict. To grasp the potential ramifications of a war, it is crucial to consider the rapid reaction systems currently in place. Once a missile is launched by one side, the opposing side's systems would detect it and respond before the initial strike can take effect. Such reactions would transpire within minutes. A missile from the United States could reach Russia in as little as 10 minutes, while a land-based ICBM would require about 30 minutes. In a nuclear conflict scenario, initial strikes would likely target command centers and nuclear launch sites. Once these installations are neutralized, subsequent missiles would aim at major cities housing military assets. While the possibility exists for Russia to initiate an attack on Ukraine, nuclear-armed NATO members such as France and the United States could also be at risk. The resultant explosions would obliterate anyone in proximity and inflict severe injuries, including blindness, on those further away. The impact on infrastructure would be catastrophic, with firestorms devastating urban areas. Following such firestorms, a nuclear winter could ensue, fueled by black carbon smoke from the conflagrations. A city like Moscow would generate substantial smoke, which would ascend into the stratosphere, where it would be heated by sunlight, creating a balloon-like effect that may persist for up to a decade. This phenomenon could lead to plunging global temperatures even during summer, further exacerbating the ongoing climate crisis. Studies indicate that over 5 billion individuals could face starvation, with the majority of casualties likely occurring in the United States, Europe, Russia, and China, as carbon emissions concentrate in the Northern Hemisphere, where they originate. The aftermath of these explosions would be significantly more devastating than that of Hiroshima. The contamination could persist for years, if not decades, necessitating that survivors remain indoors for at least 48 hours before it is deemed safe to venture outside. Modern nuclear weapons under development hold the potential for widespread fallout, with radioactive particles ascending into the stratosphere and dispersing globally. The alarming aspect of nuclear warfare lies in the rapidity of escalation and its enduring effects. As noted by BBC News, while mass destruction has been feasible for some time, the world has never stood closer to the brink than it does now. President Xi Jinping plays a pivotal role in preserving global stability. His unique relationship with Putin could be instrumental in averting a nuclear conflict. However, in light of Putin's unpredictability, the risk of escalation remains ever present, complicating the endeavor of maintaining peace. The future of Russia-China relations and the management of nuclear conflict remain uncertain. Please stay tuned for forthcoming videos to receive the latest news and in-depth analysis of the Russia-Ukraine war and China's role in the geopolitical landscape. We encourage you to subscribe and share your insights in the comments below. We look forward to connecting with you in our next videos.